Hello, today's the 21st of October 2024. A couple days ago, Liam Payne passed away, and obviously the entire world is kind of in shock and didn't expect that. Me and my sisters couldn't believe it at all, and we were totally in shock. We were all crying at some point about it, just some tears streaming. All us three only got into One Direction when the band had already broken up. So in 2019 or 2020, we found One Direction basically online, and we're such hardcore fans of them. We bought all their albums, we listened to all their songs, we talked about them every day. We bought posters and blankets of them, and it was such a funny and fun time. And we were just obsessed with them for a while. And to now just think that someone who we basically met only so recently is already gone and has died so young, it's just shocking. I mean, there was so many thoughts that went through my mind, but I don't really have to go into that. I'm sure everyone knows what grieving feels like and so on. And obviously I'm so just shocked for his family and his son. I just can't understand it. Death is just something I think us humans just can't comprehend. It's just something that doesn't go into our mind. We can't understand that, I think. But the day before yesterday, I watched a video of him which he posted about a year ago on his YouTube channel after he had taken a break for, I think he said 6 months. And I didn't really know about this drama that happened between him and other people during that time. I wasn't aware of that until now, but I watched the video that he posted when he came back online, and I could really see that he was struggling. I could really see he was going through a difficult time, and I was fascinated by how he said that no one else is to blame. He said what he said, and he constantly looked at the outside and was angry at that and kept blaming other people instead of looking inside of him and seeing what's going on there. So I was super fascinated by how he was speaking, and I knew he was on the right track to find himself and to have a good life. But I could also see that he was very, very vulnerable still, and that if something slightly or bigger were to happen to him, that he would shake very easily again. So he wasn't completely stable again, but he obviously felt like he had reached a stage where he was ready to go back online to face the world again. So he had reached some stage of stability, some stage of hope. And what hurt me the most is that he basically said I'm doing better now and I'm ready to go back into the world and go online again and things like that. So I could see he had that hope again, and he thought he was ready and he thought he was strong enough. So he was on the right track. But now, a year later, he obviously lost sight of himself to such a point that he didn't want to live anymore. He was shaking so much that he felt like he couldn't take it anymore, and then jumped off of a balcony. So to me, what was the most hurtful was hearing him say how he feels better, feels like he's on the right track. It's all this hope, all these These moments where you feel like, yeah, you've got it, it's finally getting better, like you've got your life back together again, and then it just comes crashing to the ground and deeper than it ever was. It just, yeah. When I finished that video, it obviously brought back many, many memories of my depression, and it scared me a lot to see how technically easily you can lose sight of yourself again, or just can lose sight of yourself. Because my biggest fear, which I'm sure I've mentioned in a lot of videos, is losing control over myself, losing myself. I have built up control over myself since I was very young, and losing control is my biggest fear. In my depression, my biggest fear came true. I completely lost control over myself, over my thoughts and emotions. My thoughts had completely taken me over. They created the uncomfortable feeling. I couldn't be myself anymore. I couldn't see who I was, what I was doing. Like, I didn't know where I was, who I was anymore. The big reason why I lost control over myself and sight over myself is because I hated myself so much. And when you hate yourself, you create a split personality. You create two people out of yourself. So you are this one version that hates yourself. So there's you and there's yourself. And you are the one who hates yourself. So you aren't whole anymore. You aren't at peace within yourself. You aren't yourself anymore. You create this split personality, this split human being, because you hate yourself. So you completely resist who you are. You completely don't want to be yourself. So you create this split within yourself. You resist your own being. And when you create this split, and the thoughts then have completely taken over, completely hating yourself, saying how horrible you are, you don't deserve to live anymore, or you don't want to live with yourself anymore, you literally don't want to be yourself anymore, you don't want to live with yourself anymore. That's the reason people commit suicide, because they hate themselves. They don't want to be themselves anymore. They want to escape their own being. And when you have this split personality, all you can see is how horrible you are, how much you hate yourself, all these thoughts and emotions that completely took you over. And so you can't see yourself anymore. You don't know who you are. You can't feel your own being anymore. And I just noticed how easy it is to lose sight of yourself, because to a certain extent, everyone loses sight of themselves every single day, unless they're completely present within themselves 24/7. But I saw how, like, at the moment, I have a lot of, like, hateful thoughts towards myself as well. Like, since I started the Thrive program, it's getting better. But still, I saw how all these hateful thoughts were, like, splitting me off of who I am. It was, like, making me resist myself and not be one with myself, not be whole with myself. And I saw how I was distracting myself a lot as well at the moment. Whenever I had a quiet moment, which isn't that often because I have quite a lot to do since we're living in Spain, but like whenever I do have a quiet moment, I listen to music, I watch a movie, I watch YouTube, I call my family. There's always something that I'm doing. There's always something that like is distracting me from actually being with myself and just seeing myself. So at the moment, I oftentimes don't feel myself anymore and don't completely see myself anymore. because I'm so distracted, I'm so in my head and focused on so many other things that I don't really see myself a lot anymore. And when you're in such a deep depression, and especially when you're committing suicide, you have completely lost the sight over yourself. But I also realized how in my depression, when I had lost sight over myself and I couldn't feel or see myself anymore, the only way that I could notice or could have noticed that I was losing sight of myself is by being aware that I have lost sight of myself. So I saw myself to a certain extent, because the only way that I could have noticed I was losing sight of myself was by seeing myself losing sight of myself. Otherwise, I couldn't have become aware of that. Otherwise, I wouldn't have known it. So even though I had lost sight of myself and I couldn't feel myself, I didn't know who I was anymore. I didn't know, anything about myself anymore. I was basically nothing. And even though all of that happened and was true and felt completely real, there was still a part of me that I could always see shimmer in the background. And in those moments before people commit suicide, before you have suicidal thoughts even or whatever, you are at such an unconscious level basically, because you have lost so much sight of yourself that you barely see yourself anymore. And at that level, it feels like you don't have a choice anymore except to kill yourself. It feels like there's no way you can live with yourself anymore. There is no way out of this. It feels like no matter who or what would try to save you, it wouldn't work. And no matter what good things you had in your life, if you think about them again in those moments, they are completely worthless. They don't seem important at all. It seems like there's nothing out there that could ever save me, that could ever change my mind about how horrible I am and how horrible my world is. It's as if the choice is taken away from you, because all that you see in those moments is your thoughts. Your thoughts and emotions are your world. You don't actually see your world anymore. You don't actually see what's around you. All that you see are those thoughts, is the story that you created in your mind. And this story for you is your reality. So no matter where you look around you, it's this story in your mind that is playing out. And the story feels completely real. It feels like that is the truth of the truth. There is nothing else that you believe in more than this story. And that to me is the scariest thing to exist, because in that moment, it's basically that you have lost yourself. You can't see anything anymore. The thoughts have completely taken control over you. And it feels like you have no power at all anymore. No power whatsoever. But then I also realized that suicide doesn't happen to you. It is a choice that each of those people made for themselves. No matter who committed suicide, they themselves decided to do so. So at the end of the day, I will always have a choice to commit suicide or not. But I know from my experience that in those moments, it feels like you don't have a choice, and the only thing you can do is to kill yourself. But you still do have a choice. And when I was talking to Mom about this on the phone, because I was very scared about all these thoughts in my head, and I was scared that it was going to happen to me again. I saw how easy you can lose control over yourself, how easy how easy it is to fall into such a hole and then just commit suicide. Like, and I remembered how close I was to, like, I had so many suicidal thoughts, but I knew I would never actually do that. I knew that if I did that, then I would have given up, and I wouldn't have, I just would have given up, and I wouldn't have been fighting for myself anymore. And so for me, that wasn't an option. For me, I was like, I am making it out of this. If I give up, then what did I accomplish? Absolutely nothing. If I give up, then like what was the point in all of this? Like, anyway, to me, giving up wasn't an option, even though a lot of the times I wanted to. When I was talking to Mom about this, and I was crying and just like asking, like, how is it possible that you can fall so low and actually like commit suicide? Like, how can that happen? Like, how is that possible to go from one day being like so happy and laughing and joyful with your family, and like the next day you're like, you've completely like lost it. You've completely lost sight of reality, and the thoughts have created this entire world that only seems to exist for you now, and then you just kill yourself. Like, I don't understand, how can it go from that to this? Like, how is that possible? And I was like, I know that the Thrive program is helping me to deal with all of this, and the Thrive program is there to like prevent you from even getting to that point of wanting to kill yourself or actually committing suicide. Like, the Thrive program is there to like prevent yourself from doing that, to give you the skills so that you don't even fall so low, that you don't even lose sight of yourself. But I'm like, what if you are at that point already? What if you are in that scenario where you are just about to commit suicide? Like, in that space, like, what can save you? It's like there's nothing that can actually save you, nothing that can help you. But I can't accept that. I don't want to accept that as the truth, that nothing can save you in those moments. In that moment, like, there has to be an answer. I was just like asking aloud, like, what is the answer for those moments? What can you do in those moments? And Mom said that when people are in those moments, they have lost sight of themselves, like I said, so they can't help themselves anymore. So they need another person to tell them, like, stop, you have to calm down, you are losing sight, like, this is wrong, this is a wrong perspective, we need to fix this, we need to make this better, or whatever. Like, they need another person to save them. But I'm like, not everyone has another person, and that doesn't always work. Like, when you're suicidal, you're completely alone. Like, you, in yourself, there is no one and nothing that feels like it can save you. You are like completely alone. You are making the decision to kill yourself. Like, and what is there in that moment that can save you, that you can do for yourself to help yourself? Like, I can't accept that there's nothing you can do and the only path is to commit suicide. Like, I don't want to accept that, because that is so scary. It's as if something else has taken complete control over you and your life. But the thing is, again, at the end of the day, it's our choice if we commit suicide or not. But if we're so low and so unconscious, like, it feels like there's nothing we can do, and so that's why people commit suicide. And what can they do to like stop it, to help themselves? Like, but a big insight that Mom gave me, which I hadn't thought about, is that oftentimes when people are committing suicide, they are already unconscious. They are not in their conscious mind. So They may have taken drugs just before that, alcohol, tablets, like whatever. And I thought back to anyone I know who committed suicide, and I saw how, yeah, every single one of them had taken something so that they would fall unconscious, and they were trying to escape their problems, but obviously that doesn't work. Especially when you're so low already, there's no way you can escape your problems. They are smack bang right in your face. So alcohol won't even work. Your life will still feel shit. You will still feel like the most worthless person on earth. So, I mean, I don't know that. I've never drank alcohol and I've never taken drugs, but from my experience of depression, no matter what you try to do, you can't escape the problems. No matter how unconscious you try to make yourself, the problems follow you right there. Like it's as if they are in your eyes. Like the problems, that's all you can see. All you can see is these problems. There's no way to escape it. Nothing that you can do to like lose sight of the problems. So anyway, when she said that, I actually realized, yeah, that's true. Like, apparently Liam Payne had taken something before he jumped. My grandfather, my dad's dad, had taken something before he killed himself. I never met him, but I know this. And like my granny's sister, who I also never met, and she committed suicide, and she had taken something before. Any stories online that I've heard about suicide, they've all taken something to escape their problems, which then, though, just made it worse and made them fall completely unconscious, that then they really had lost sight of themselves. Like I was saying, how I still saw myself shimmer somewhere in the background, because the only way that I knew or could notice that I had lost sight of myself was by seeing myself losing sight of myself. So there was some sort of awareness still in me. But when you drink alcohol, take drugs, you lose that normal consciousness. And especially when you're so low and then take drugs or alcohol, the last little bit of awareness that you had left, of course, is gonna be gone. So then the only thing you'll automatically do is commit suicide, because you have then completely lost sight of yourself. When you completely lose sight of yourself, you can't save yourself anymore. You need to see yourself in order to save yourself, to whatever sort of extent. But to me, I still can't accept that. I can't accept that that's the only option those people have. It may feel like it, but it's not the only option they have. But how can they know that? How can they know they have another option? They can make it through. And yes, of course, a lot of people who commit suicide, they want to. Some people choose that consciously. They're already very unconscious because their thoughts have already taken over and painted a picture of their world, which is completely different to their actual reality, but they completely believe it and are stuck in it and there's no escape, blah, blah, blah. So that, in that sense, people still decide consciously, like, I want to die now, I'm going to kill myself. Some people do that, but the thing is, in those moments, they have lost sight of themselves. They aren't actually conscious of what they are doing. They aren't actually seeing reality anymore. They aren't seeing that there are other options. They aren't seeing that life can be great. Oh, in those moments, there's no such thing as like great or a possibility of life being great. Yeah, but that was actually the one thing that helped me in that moment when Mom said most people who commit suicide have taken something to fall completely unconscious, and then obviously they couldn't see themselves anymore and therefore couldn't save themselves anymore. Yeah, that evening where I watched that video, I was so afraid, and I felt so sorry for anyone who committed suicide, and I was so afraid I was going to fall to that point again, or like even worse, because I obviously wasn't at that point that I actually committed suicide, because I'm still here now. But like, I was like shivering basically with like fear, and I was like, my biggest fear obviously of losing control over myself came back and was triggered with this, because if you commit suicide, you've completely lost control over yourself, over your life, your thoughts, your emotions, whatever. So I was so afraid that my biggest fear could actually come true. And like losing yourself as well is the fear of death, basically. Every one of us is afraid of death to a certain extent because we don't know what it is. We don't know what happens. Our human mind can't comprehend death, can't process death. It's just not possible. So losing ourselves technically is everyone's biggest fear, because it basically means death. It basically means, because we believe that when we die, we are gone, we have lost ourselves, which I don't believe is actually true, but that is our biggest fear, basically. So yeah, I was just sitting on the couch watching that video, and when I turned it off, like, my thoughts were in such shock, and I was like, oh my god, he was like on the right track, but so vulnerable still. And then a year later, he's just gone. Yeah, and the thoughts were very dark, and I was so afraid to see how easily that can happen. So I was like, leaning back on the couch and just crying and tears streaming, and was just so afraid. And I wrote about it as well, about how losing myself is the biggest fear and so on. And then after that, I realized how, well, I can only be aware that I lost myself when obviously there's still some awareness on myself. Like, so I still have some sort of sight on myself. And every single one of us is ourselves. So I'm like, how can we lose ourselves? How can we lose sight of ourselves so strongly? Like, how is that possible when we literally are ourselves? So technically we can never completely lose ourselves because we are ourselves. But still, people still lose sight of themselves to that extent that they literally kill themselves. They resist being themselves so badly that they just don't want to live with themselves. But yeah, the next day then, talking to mom about this helped a lot, because I kept feeling that fear during the day and kept noticing how my body was like sort of shivering with the fear. And I was like, wow, it can really happen that for us humans, there's no escape anymore, and there's nothing we can do, and we're completely powerless. But then when talking to mom, I noticed we aren't completely powerless. It is our decision to commit suicide, and we are ourselves, so we can never truly lose ourselves. But still, anyway, yeah, I could sort of accept this whole thing more when I noticed how people take something, or a lot of people take something before they commit suicide, and that is a choice they make. They still have their sort of conscious but unconscious mind, and with that conscious mind, they choose to take something so that they fall unconscious and don't feel the problems anymore. But obviously they still do, then feel like they can't handle it whatsoever and commit suicide. So that for me was more acceptable, because I was like, okay, people are choosing to take alcohol and drugs, which you can choose not to do that. And I know that I'm a person, I've never drank alcohol, I've never taken drugs. So to me it was like, okay, I'm not going to do that. So I'll always have my conscious mind to a certain extent. So I'll be able to stop myself. I'll be able to save myself. And of course, the biggest reason why suicide actually happens then is because the people have given up on themselves. They just believe it's worthless. They are worthless. They are completely powerless. They feel all of this, think all of this, believe it, and then give up on themselves. If you would never ever give up on yourself, you would never ever commit suicide. So that is the last reason, the last thing as to why people commit suicide. They've given up on themselves. And that's something I never did. That's the one thing I never ever let go of, was myself, fighting for myself. I never gave up on myself. So yeah, don't give up. It's the most important thing ever, no matter how hard it is. Do not give up. Don't give up on yourself, because then you have a chance. You're giving yourself a chance to build a positive, nice, loving, caring, happy life. If you give up, all that there is left then is that horribleness. And then all you'll want to do is to die. So don't give up, because then at least you have a chance. And if you keep going, you will reach it. You will, because you keep fighting for it. There's no questions asked. I am the living proof for that. Don't give up and you'll reach it. You'll make it. There's an answer to every problem, or else a problem wouldn't exist. There is an answer, and you can do it. You have the strength. Believe me, if you can't believe yourself, you have the strength. Nothing in your life ever happens to you that you can't handle. You are handling it right then when it feels like you aren't or you can't, but you are. Look at yourself. You are handling it. You are doing it. You are going through it, and you are making it. You are not giving up. You are doing it. You are able to handle it. Yeah, I'm going to leave it at that for now. Thank you very much for watching. Take care, and until the next time. Bye.